Our president was the fourth president to be assassinated in a nation that was less than 200 years old, according to Betsy Towner in an article, 50 Facts You May Not Know About the JFK Assassination, found on May 25th. Today we'll be talking about one of the most popular presidents in our American culture, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. We'll be going over his childhood, his presidency, and after his death. John was born in Brooklyn, Massachusetts on May 29, 1917. He had a family with 9 children, including him and his mother Rose. The children consisted of 4 boys and 5 girls. Their names are Joe, Rosemary, Kathleen, Eunice, Patricia, Robert, and himself. The remaining 2 haven't been born yet, whose names are Teddy and Jean. John got his name from Rose's father, John Francis Fitzgerald. John had a very clever individualist mind in school, and he went through high school and Harvard, soon graduating Harvard in 1936. John soon then joined the Navy with his brother Joe. Joe enlisted as a pilot and was sent to Europe. John was made a lieutenant and was assigned to command a patrol torpedo boat listed as PT-109. John's role was to stop Japanese ships from delivering supplies to their soldiers. Soon, a Japanese destroyer appeared. They tried to take aim, but it was too late. The destroyer was planning on ramming John's ship. The Japanese split John's ship into 2, killing 2 crewmen. The rest jumped off the boat to save themselves from danger and burns. He and his crew were rescued on a small island after they drifted ashore. Sadly, John's brother Joe died when his plane blew up during combat. Now, onto his presidency. After serving in the Navy, Kennedy began to get into politics. His beginning brought him to running for Congress in Massachusetts, which he won. He then served as a Democrat for 6 years in the House of Representatives, and in 1952, he was then elected into the U.S. Senate. At the age of 36, he married Jacqueline Bouvier, an editor who was 24 at the time. Soon after, Kennedy had severe back pains and had to have 2 serious operations performed on him. In the meantime, he wrote the book Profile of Courage. This book was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for biography in 1957. That same year, Kennedy's first child, Caroline, was born. Kennedy began to become a popular politician. On July 13, 1960, he was elected by the Democratic Party as their candidate for president. He was against the Republican Richard Nixon. The 2 fought for the position, and on November 8, 1960, Kennedy beat Nixon in a very close race. At the age of 43, Kennedy was the youngest man elected as president. Kennedy soon spoke his inaugural speech, where he said his very well-known phrase, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." Kennedy didn't have an easy time in office. Kennedy had to deal with threats of nuclear war between Soviets and the US. After World War II, there was a lot of tension, but no gunfire. This Cold War was a conflict on whose government was better, communism or the 3-branch system in the US. Because of tension, both countries poured money into nuclear warheads, and there were many times that World War III could have started from this. One example is the Cuban Missile Crisis. Kennedy did 2 things to settle tension. First, he created the Peace Corps, an organization that allows willing people to help around the world to settle peace. Second, even though the US was behind, Kennedy funded over $22 billion towards Project Apollo from NASA, the project to put a man on the moon. This settles tension with Soviets, showing them that we have better rockets. Another problem Kennedy had to deal with is society's view on racial discrimination. Even with an anti-discrimination law passed in 1954, southern public areas still enforced segregation. During Kennedy's time in office, MLK Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech. Kennedy was supportive enough to propose a new civil rights bill to Congress, as well as appear on millions of televisions on America, and ask them to end racism. Now, on November 21, 1963, Kennedy flew to Texas for political speeches. The next day, his car drove past slowly through crowds in Dallas. Shots rang out as a bullet enters his head. Jacqueline was in shock as she tried to pick up his brains and put them back in, hoping it would help. Police arrested Lee Harvey Oswald, who was then killed by Jack Ruby on November 24th. November 22, 1963 was the day Kennedy died. His death caused a lot of sadness and grief among Americans. Hundreds gathered in Washington to see his burial. Many respected his choices and how he dealt with certain situations in office. His life story was written according to an article written by the Presidential Library and Museum called Life of John F. Kennedy, found on May 25th. After his death, Vice President Lyndon Johnson took up presidency 45 minutes after the assassination, becoming the 36th president, according to Tricia Escobedo, on an article, 5 Things You Might Not Know About JFK's Assassination, found on May 31st. Now I've told you about his childhood, his presidency, and after his death. JFK was an honorable man who served our country well. Who knows what would have happened if he was still alive for the rest of his presidency.